recognized for their hard work. And this is an opportunity to recognize the hard work of Black people. And I feel like that's important. I'm not trying to be biased or anything as a Black person, but still, it's like it's still important to like, recognize everyone's hard work. And this just so happens to be the turn for Black people to be recognized. So I think that answers your question. I hope it does. Okay.
No, 100% it does. That response was amazing. And what you said in the beginning of how, like, when you're younger, it is kind of hard to wrap your head around because Black history and Black culture is huge. There's so many facets to it. There's so many, positive, amazing, wonderful things we can talk about. But then there is this really, tragic history that we have to acknowledge and we can't forget. And sometimes it's hard to talk about, but we need to talk about it to make sure, that we give acknowledgements where they're due. And yeah, I think your response, perfectly encompassed that. In that vein, I wanted to ask, have you, you're into poetry, writing it at least, maybe when you were younger you didn't like reading it, but which I get because poetry can be a little bit like to wrap your head around metaphors and analogies and stuff. But I guess I just want to know, have you found any inspiration during Black History Month for your art? And yeah, or anything in Black history maybe that has inspired you?
I've definitely been inspired for sure during Black History Month, and this is kind of like a three-part answer because I want to make sure that every group of people that has inspired me gets recognized for it.
Please go
First and
for it.
foremost, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I have to say my family. I feel like as a university student, I'm starting to realize how like important it is to acknowledge your loved ones. And for my case, my family is definitely an important like group of people to me. And they've inspired me just by their hard work. Like there are times when we like bicker with each other, but at the same time, they're always there for me whenever push comes to shove or if I get knocked down or if I lose my loonie down the storm drain and like now I'm sad because I don't have my $1 anymore. But they're always there for me to support me. And I feel like that's really inspirational because especially in like a world where social media is starting to become more prominent, it's very easy to be unable to recognize who is a genuine supporter and like who is, someone that will like stab you in their back or just creating a facade that they're actually reliable when in reality they're going to, do you wrong or something like that. And for my case, my family is, someone that I can rely on. And I understand that that's not the same for everyone, but in my case, my family is very important to me. So I definitely feel inspired by them. And also, I feel inspired by people I look up to as celebrities. There are four people in general that I want to mention. Their names are Randella J, Dwayne Morgan, Jeff A.D. Martin, and Kwesi Millington. And they're all either spoken word poets or public speakers. And I look up to them a lot because they're all Black individuals who are either doing public speaking or poetry. And those are two things that I really, like to do, obviously, like I said that in my introduction. And I feel like it's important to have a set of people to look up to in any field that you want, because for whatever reason, you can aspire to be like them. Maybe it's their mannerisms, maybe it's their work, maybe it's their accomplishments. It can vary for people. But for my case, I just want to inspire people, and those four people are all people that are very inspirational and have contributed significantly to their respective fields. And I want to be in that class of people. So I look up to them as well. And also I look up to some of my friends as well. Like some of my friends are like really inspirational to me as well. And I know that sounds like a pretty cliche answer, but like one thing I've noticed is that at U of T there are some like some insane people. Like there's some outstanding people with their work ethic and their you know what I'm saying, just their work ethic and their drive. Like I have a friend,
Totally.
I'm shouting him out too, Kalir Najir Miles. I found out that he's running for the director of political science at UTSC. That was crazy to me because I met this guy back in September and I thought this was just like a normal, like good Samaritan, very reliable friend. This guy's out here. He's a representative in the Political Sciences Students Association. He's running for director of political science at UTSC. And like, that's inspirational to me because like I want to be like him. And I have other friends that are also trying to get involved as much as they can. And I like to see that. I like to see that, as young people, they're taking, the initiative to insert themselves into these places of significance. And, that's really important because, with each generation comes a new like set of perspectives and stuff. And, as young people, sometimes we can be seen as, not serious, or we don't get taken seriously because we're not experienced enough or not wise enough. And, I like to see my friends taking the initiative to put themselves into these spaces. And I'm inspired by my friends too. And it's just, I got to recognize that. Like, I don't want to just like overlook it because, they're my friends or whatever. These are some inspirational people. And I got to give them their flowers because they're working hard and I want to make sure they're recognized for it. But yeah, that's my over elaborate answer to that question.
No, that was so good. And I love your take on like supporting your friends because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like at U of T it can get very competitive sometimes. Like you won't know
So
like
true.
who is for you and who is against you. But like I really, really value people who are like you, who like value their friends and kind of are always supporting of their friends because they're your friends. They're people who are doing amazing things and you're so proud of them. So why would you ever want to compete with them? Like you want to be proud of the people you love. And I love your take on that. And I think that's such an important mindset to have. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And I feel like it's important because I mean, High School Musical says it best. We're all in this together. And there's unity in community. And we have to be able to
100%.
establish the foundation to work together to, rise up like a tower. You start out broad and you have to establish that foundation in order to, rise above. That's my
Yeah.
analogy nerd coming back again. But yeah.
No, that's
Awesome.
so true. And inspiration honestly is so powerful. It can, take people who maybe didn't really think they could do much, seeing people who are in their same position, who look like them, who are able to insert themselves in these big spaces and make their voices heard is so encouraging. And so inspiration is a power, I think, like no other. And I'm really glad that you are able to see inspiration in all these aspects of your life, whether it be, like you mentioned, some celebrities, in the wider community, your family or your friends. I think it's great that you are inspired by so many things because that just is going to push you further. Um, but yeah, I guess the next question I have is just a little bit, less, I guess, happy, but I did want to ask, what sort of obstacles have you as a student faced in your experience at U of T, maybe? Do you think do you think Black people face maybe unique obstacles at large academic institutions like this? And if so, how do you think art or anything else really can address it? I know it's a really long question, so let me know if you want to repeat anything.
Oh no, I think I got everything.
Okay, cool.
Um, for me personally, I've definitely experienced my fair share of challenges at U of T. One thing that I've struggled with is definitely managing the amount of work that comes with courses, especially in STEM courses. There's a lot of stuff to memorize. And for me personally, time management is always something that I've struggled with. Recently, I've gotten a lot better at it, but back in September, I was really bad at time management. And I did virtual schooling for my grade 11 and grade 12 year. And that was very, it was an easygoing, lenient process. So to go from 2 years of virtual schooling plus the half semester of the COVID year in 2020 to going to U of T of all places, it was a very interesting experience. Like it was like the flick of a light switch. It was like on and off. It was just instant. And I mean, it was difficult for me because I want to go to med school, and I know that in order to go to med school, you need to have a high GPA. And my GPA from last semester is very interesting. I'm lucky enough to pass everything, but my marks were really bad, and I take responsibility for it because my time management was really bad. Like I was also involved in extracurriculars, so I had more on my plate than a student who was not in extracurriculars. But at the same time, my time management was really bad. And like I'd put off like studying to, do this thing or that thing or watch YouTube or binge watch Netflix. And that was something that I found to be very common amongst many of my peers as well. And I'm not exactly sure why the reason for that is. Like that's still something that I'm trying to figure out. But just managing the workload was definitely the biggest part of like my struggles at U of T. And with regard to the other part of your question about you asking like what type of issues that Black people may face at like U of T or in these educational spaces, I definitely can't speak for every single Black person because I don't have enough experiences to cover the whole diaspora. But I feel like just looking at it from like a socioeconomic perspective, I'm not too educated on like the economic state of the country, but from what I've seen and heard from some of my friends, um, I think it's more likely for someone who is a person of color, which can include Black people, to be less economically stable than other people, whether that may be they may live far away from their school or they may not have a lot of money to do whatever. And I feel like that can be an influence on people because at UTSC, many people commute, myself included. So I know what it's like to go through the struggles of commuting. And fortunately, I live a short distance away. So my experience isn't as brutal compared to one of my other friends who has a 2 hour commute. And I have to wake up early in the morning and I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I'm not gonna have a good day at school today. I'm just gonna be like tired. So for me, complaining who lives like 30, 40 minutes away, comparing that to someone who lives 2 hours away, that could be like they could be feeling even worse than I do. And they told me that they don't have the opportunity of living in Scarborough or living on campus because they don't have the funds to do so. Like it's above their pay grade. And in addition to that, it's not just the flat rates of paying for the area itself, but they also had to pay for food. They had to pay for, traveling, whether it's gas money or taking the bus. They have to pay for obviously their tuition is also a big factor as well. And economically speaking, in theory, that could affect a lot of Black people as well. And I feel like one way that we could address this issue is probably providing more scholarships. And providing more scholarships alone isn't enough, but it's also important to make sure that people are aware of those scholarships. Like you can't just provide some type of resource and then not like show it off. Like if you just provide the resource and then nobody knows about it, obviously no one can apply because nobody knows it exists in the first place. So I think providing more scholarships or maybe just like finding a way to lower fees is definitely one way that we could address that issue because it's really sad that someone has to wake up at like 4 in the morning just to go to school like just because of their commuting time and then have to leave super early and not having the opportunity to study on their campus because they know they have to go to like another 2 hour 3 hour commute or they have a family to take care of and they can't spend much time. Like it's really sad to see that. And I feel like I mean, I'm no expert on this. I'm not super educated on like economics and finance and stuff. Like I can barely manage my own money, but at the same time